It's time to introduce you to my next project, which I'm gonna flip for a lot of money. A lot. Now you don't have to tell me, I know a Toyota Prius isn't super exciting. It's probably the most bland car out there. But let me tell you a few things, a few little details about this car and why I think it's gonna make me a lot of money. First thing is, it is a Toyota. Now Toyotas are known for holding their value very well. Especially their trucks and SUVs, they hold up very well, but also their cars hold up very well too. And even the older ones still fetch a lot of money. Now let's move over to the pretty side, that way you can see what it's supposed to look like, and hopefully what that side's gonna look like when we're finished with it. This car is a 2012 Toyota Prius C. Now they have different kind of submodels of a Prius with different body styles. From what I understand, the C is more the lower end model. You can get this for a lot cheaper than the normal Prius, but this still has a lot of value to it. I only paid $2,500 for this, which you think, not that great of a deal, especially considering the body damage. We have to replace both doors, the fender, the quarter panel. There is a lot of damage on that side. But let me show you the kicker and what I think is gonna make me a lot of money about this. Moving on to the inside. Gotta yank it open a little bit. Inside's a little dirty, a little dusty, not too terrible. All that can be cleaned up pretty well. But let me show you what I'm talking about. I don't know if you can read that right there, but it only has 22,527 miles on this car, which I don't have to tell you is very low. That is a low mile car. So a 2014 Toyota Prius with 22,000 miles on it goes for roughly $11,000 to $13,000. Considering I only paid $2,500 for this with a clean title, I think I have a good deal going. But let's talk about the damage and the parts that we're gonna need for it and the price of that. All the damage really focused on this side. It didn't even really touch the back area, so this whole hatchback is in good shape. And the rear bumper back here was in okay shape, but it was all bent up and cracked from the wreck. The original wheel was all bent up, but the axle is in perfect shape. I was able to drive it down the road at full speed and didn't feel any wobbles or any kind of pulling to the left at all. So that pretty much tells me that the axle is perfectly fine. It's just the rim that got damaged. Now this is the main damage, which is gonna be the hardest to replace. This is the quarter panel. We will have to pull all this out. It needs to be pulled out probably, I don't know, 7 inches or so. Get all that pulled back out and then replaced with a new quarter panel. Same thing with this door. This door needs to be pulled out and then removed and replaced. This door also doesn't look too bad at first, but if you look at it a little bit closer, big dent up here. This whole corner up here is all dented. I don't think you'll be able to fix that the right way. So just better off replacing that door. And then lastly, this fender up here is also bent in. The front bumper is in good shape. Everything else is in good shape. So we do have a good bit of work. This is all gonna need to be replaced. So we need to figure out how much that is gonna cost. Luckily, I already know, and I already have all the parts. All right here. I have the quarter panel, the rear bumper, new tail lights, and both the doors. I'm still waiting for the fender, but that is coming in here soon. These are all used parts. Unfortunately, it's not the same color that we need. These doors are white, and then the quarter panel's blue, along with the bumper also being blue. And the fender coming in is a new fender, so we're gonna have to repaint all that. Repainting all these parts is gonna add to the cost a little bit, but even if I bought all new parts, I was gonna have to repaint them anyway, so luckily we saved a good bit of money doing this. So I bought the tail lights, the wheel, and both the doors from someone. I paid $600 for all that. So it was like $250 a door and then $100 for the headlights, and then the wheel was free with it. And then the quarter panel and bumper, I bought those from a junkyard and I paid $530 for that. And then lastly, the fender was right around $100 new. So right around $1,300 to fix this. Now we're gonna add on an extra like $600 or so just for the paint and also any extra surprises we might have underneath here. So right around $4,500 for pretty much everything for a car we can sell for around $11,000. Easily double our money if it all works out right. First thing we gotta do is fix this. Now luckily for me, Vevor actually sent me their frame pulling machine, and this has been a big help on my Tacoma rebuild. I was able to pull out all the damage on that, but that was all on the easy side of framework. This, however, is gonna be a little bit more challenging because this is a little bit more damaged. We gotta be a little bit more strategic when we pull it out because we wanna save as much as we can behind there. This is gonna be the hardest wreck car I've ever rebuilt. I've only done a handful in my lifetime, but I think we can do it, and I think we can do it pretty quickly. I'm gonna take you guys on the complete journey of how much money I'm gonna have into this thing, what I'm gonna sell it for, and then I'll update you on how much I sell it for, hopefully. And then we can go over the whole budget thing and see how much money we can make flipping cars, specifically wreck cars. So with all that being said, let's get to work. Honestly, these newer cars, the metal is so thin, it all cuts very easily. So pulling off this quarter panel isn't super difficult. What is difficult though is what's underneath it. Let me show you the damage. Quarter panels can be difficult to pull off, especially if there's a lot of damage on it. And this right here is no exception to that. We can tell that this thing was pushed in all the way to right here, and this is about where it's supposed to be. So we had to pull all that out and get it all back in the shape. I think I have it in a good spot right now, but all that needs replaced, and I didn't know it was gonna be that bad until we pulled this quarter panel off. To pull this quarter panel off, it's all welded on by little spot welds all the way down it. And we are gonna move it up a bit further. We're probably gonna splice it in right here. I would love to go to this point because there is a little bit of damage right here, but this quarter panel is welded on underneath the roof skin. So if I wanted to replace it up to here, I would have to peel back the roof skin a little bit. And that's just a lot more difficult work. So I'm just gonna go up as far as I can, which is about right here. And then same thing down here. I'm gonna be going back to about this point and replacing all this. This is probably the best place to splice it in. And this wheel well is also gonna get replaced. And this is all a one big piece. It comes all the way up to here and around. Now what I didn't plan for or expect is replacing the inside right here. Moving to the inside, you can see it's a little bent right here, and then you can see where it's starting to split from the seam. Really just in this little spot and also right here. I don't think this is gonna be too difficult to remove. It's just a little bit of spot welds right here. We gotta remove the seam sealer, get to those spot welds. This whole top section is okay. I'm just gonna remove this bottom section and replace it all in one go. I'm gonna try to save this section. This is where the tail light goes. It seems to be in okay shape. It's a little bent down at the bottom, but I think I can straighten that up and make it look right. Same thing with down here. I don't have this full replacement panel, so I'm gonna straighten this out as best as I can and get all that taken care of. It's just a lot of this is gonna get replaced. Luckily, I have all the replacements right here. New quarter panel has everything I need. It's not damaged at all. So we're gonna be able to cut this thing out, get all the parts we need off of it, and then just splice it back onto the car. Same thing with both the doors and the rear bumpers. We're gonna get all that mounted up and lined up before we actually start welding anything on. But to get to that point, we need to replace that whole wheel well, everything that's damaged in there. Make sure we get it done right, and then we can start lining up the doors and making sure it all lines up properly. I am gonna have to pull up this corner panel and start taking that thing apart too. But first, let's figure it out on this thing before we start taking it apart on that. Yeah, let's do it. I'm not meaning to sound conceited or anything, but I expected that to be a lot more difficult and a lot more frustrating. But it was actually pretty straightforward. Just replace the parts that are damaged and it all pretty much lines up. There was a couple issues though, and I'm gonna show you that right now. First off, when I installed this, I put the door on to see the gap, make sure it was all good, and it was barely anything. It was pretty much touching each other, so that told me either my quarter panel was off or the door was off. So what I did was I got the other door and the fender, installed all those, made sure those were lined up correctly, and we noticed that there was a big gap up the very top. So what I had to do to fix that is I replaced the hinge. This top hinge is bent somehow, not really sure, it's hard to tell. But with the amount of damage on that door, I'm not really surprised. The bottom hinge is okay, so I'm not gonna replace that, but the top hinge needs replaced, and that fixed our main issue. These part stores are okay. There's a lot of overspray on them. They were sitting in the back of some shop forever. As you can see, this door was actually placed on the parts car that I got it off of. It was originally yellow, they painted it white, and then this door is factory white. Unfortunate that we didn't get any silver ones, but we got these for a good deal, so I'm not really complaining. This fender up here was brand new, it was around $100. Lines up pretty okay, needs a little adjusting right here, but all that can be done afterwards. That's no big deal. Our main focus was all back here and trying to get that lined up. And once we got that hinge fixed, it all lined up perfectly. Yeah, once we get that welded on, it's gonna look really good. Same thing in the inside here, we gotta weld in all these spot welds, fix all that up. I wanted to keep this taillight housing because it was in good shape and it was gonna be a pain to replace. It's up underneath this and up underneath this, so be a little bit of a pain to replace, and it was in okay shape. Just needs bent back a little bit more, as you can see. It got pushed forward in the wreck, but I think I can save that, and if not, I will replace it, but for right now, it's okay. And in the inside right here, we gotta weld up all these holes and seam seal it all. So the next step in all this, we're gonna remove everything, get it all cleaned up, make sure we have the holes in the right spot, drilling the right holes, spray in some weld-through primer, stop from corrosion, weld in the new wheel well, say that 20 times fast. Weld that in, and then we can put the skin back on and start welding that up. Make sure it's still in the right place when we start welding everything, get it all tacked into place properly. Might have to do a backing up here, I'm not really sure yet. And after all that's done, it's gonna be pretty close. It's just gonna be paint left. Hopefully this all continues to go smooth. Taking all these parts off the quarter panel that we got, you just gotta be really careful. You don't wanna mess anything up. You don't wanna cut anything off that you actually need, because there's really no going back. Just gotta be careful, double check where you're cutting, and then you should be good to go. Taking it all off was really easy and we didn't damage anything, so all good there. Hopefully this continues to go smoothly. We will know in a little bit. Take everything back off and get the welding. Doesn't it look so good? It's pretty much drivable now, I guess, maybe. Overall, it looks awesome. It fit all back up very well. I had to take it all off, clean it up, and then re-weld it all on. Still lines up good and matches up very well. A couple of little things I'm gonna point out and some mistakes I made that I'm gonna fix in the future, hopefully. But overall, it looks really good, and I think it's gonna come out very well once it's painted. All the body gaps look pretty good up to about this point right here. And what I think happened is when I was welding it, it got too hot and that warped the metal a little bit. You can feel that it's a little sunken in right here. So I got the metal too hot. I tried to spot weld it bit by bit, like giving it time to cool off and going back over it. But this metal is just so thin, so it was really hard to not warp it at all. So I'm gonna have to pull this out a little bit and hopefully fix this body line. But overall, I don't think the normal person would notice it. And once it's all one color, I don't think anyone's gonna notice it at all. But I do wanna try to fix that and make sure it's right. Another thing you may notice is that the tail lights are different. I actually have a matching one to match that side. I do actually like this side a little bit better, but I got a good deal for these ones, so something I'm gonna have to deal with. And I don't know what this wire is coming out of it. I don't know what that's for. You also may notice that this tail light is sticking out a little bit, and that is because it's missing the little plug in the back that holds it in. Once I find that replacement piece, it should match up pretty well. So body filler up here once we fix the gap. A little bit of body filler on the inside. Make sure it all looks good. Same thing down here. The doors are in great shape. There's one little dent on the driver's door right here that I'm gonna fix. And then there's one dent right here in the rocker panel. So body work isn't gonna take very long on this thing. One thing that may look a little bit rough is the seam sealer. There was a lot on here, so this isn't any more than what was on there originally. It just looks a little rough because it is white, so it stands out against the black seam sealer. And also I don't have the fancy guns that make that kind of texture, so I just tried to mimic it as best as I could. But it's gonna hold up very well. And I'll end up just spraying it with bed liner so it'll all match and look pretty good. Same thing on the inside. We replaced this whole wheel well, so we had to replace all that seam sealer. And I tried to make it match as best as I could, but like I said, I don't have the guns that make it look like that. So best I can do, and the purpose of it is to seal the seams. So it's doing its job at least. Also the interior still needs put back together, but that's for the next episode. Bumper lined up very well. You probably wanna test that before you weld everything on, but bumper has a little bit of extra play in it, so not that big of a deal, and it lines up perfectly. A little bit of damage on the bumper down here that I need to fix. Other than that, this bumper is in pretty good shape besides the paint peeling. Comparing it to what it looked like when I first got it, I think it's night and day difference. For not doing this very often, I think I did a pretty good job. So next episode, we're gonna be painting this whole thing. We gotta paint the inside of the doors, the inside of the fender, inside of the back here. I wanna get all that matching and looking good. Also wanna clean up the inside in the next episode, detail it all. Hopefully it'll be done in the next episode. As long as nothing catastrophic goes wrong, it'll be finished in the next episode. I wanna thank you all so much for watching and coming along with me on this whole journey. This is a good learning experience for me, and hopefully you guys learn stuff too. Another huge thank you to Vevor for sending out this frame machine. If it wasn't for sponsors like them, I would not be able to do projects like this. So huge thank you to them. Their link is in my description. If you're not following me on Instagram, I post behind the scenes on there so you guys can get a little preview of what's coming up. Other than that, thank you so much, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Bye.